Hello friends, this is Carrie and welcome back to I Like Reddit channel. I hope you all are staying safe and healthy. Friends, today we have 4 stories out of the Entitled Parents subreddit. Let's begin. Our first story is by Dat Poster Rick. Entitled Mother tried to take my friend's truck, stabbed him with a pocket knife. When told no, cops took her away kicking and screaming. Not my story, but that of a friend who authorized me to post it here when I asked him. For starters, my friend owns a blue 05 Dodge Ram 1500. It's not the most reliable model truck, but he's kept it in pretty darn good condition and left it looking stock, save for some aftermarket alloy wheels. He told me he was willed the truck from his grandfather who passed away 7 years ago. Caleb isn't a mechanic, but learned how to do much of the work himself on his truck. I even helped him redo the undercoating on it, buff, polish, and paint. This story takes place around 3 years ago. My friend told me this was really the one and only time he had to deal with an entitled parent. He described her as looking like a teapot, short and stout. So from this point forward, the entitled mother will be referred to as Teapot. For the sake of giving him a name, my friend in this story will be referred to as Caleb. Rewind 3 years and our story began at a local supermarket rhyming with Stallmart. Caleb always goes out of his way to try and get as close of a parking space as possible, and on this day he managed to do so. He went in, did the bulk of his food shopping for the next couple of weeks. Everything seemed fine, but of course, now comes enter Karen part of the story. Caleb was pushing his cart out when he saw an older woman trying to force open the rear door of the canopy of the truck. This was odd because you could clearly see inside he really didn't have anything of value in there other than a few tools. She didn't seem to notice him until he was super close and said to her, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" Teapot jumped back like lightning struck, but started quickly playing the old lady card. The woman was about 50 tops. She put her hand over her heart and said in an over-exaggerated way, "Oh dear, you shouldn't sneak up on people like that, young man." Caleb, "Yeah, sure. What are you doing?" Teapot, "I was just trying to get into my truck. I locked my keys inside by mistake and can't get in." Caleb, "Lady, this is not your truck." Teapot, "Yes it is, I got it last year." Caleb, "Oh really? Then what model year is it?" Teapot, "It's 2010. Just look at how clean and new it looks." Caleb, "No lady, it's an 05. I know because it's my truck." Caleb then produced the keys and pressed the button on the fob to unlock the door. He said teacup went from white, then red with anger. It's pretty much the full stereotypical Karen after this. Teapot, "Listen here, you little crap. You don't deserve a truck this nice. It'd be a lot better for someone like my son. He's a local college student, you know, and he needs a nice shiny vehicle like this to get around in." Caleb, "Are you loopy, lady? My truck isn't for sale, and even if it was, how much would you give me for it?" Teapot started to look smug and pulled out a checkbook from her purse. "I can give you $1,500 for it right now." Caleb face-palmed so hard he said he hurt his nose. "Lady, my truck is worth several times that, and I've personally kept up the maintenance for several years. There's no way in hell I would take $1,500 for it. Plus, there's no way I'd hand her the title unless you paid me in cash. I don't trust checks." Teapot moved to get up in his face, which was funny because he was a full foot taller than her. She was about to speak when Caleb silenced her with a loud, "Don't even think about it, lady. My truck isn't yours for the taking. It never will be. Now leave me alone so I can unload my groceries in peace and go home." He then did his best to try and ignore Teapot as she began screaming and saying that she'd call the police. Caleb then yelled back, "Call him then." And she actually did. She pulled out her old flip phone and began fake crying while speaking with a person on the other end. Caleb finished loading his groceries and locked the truck because he wasn't about to drive off with the police on their way. When the police arrived, Teapot actually flopped down onto the ground and started fake crying like a baby while flailing her arms and legs around and pointing at Caleb. "He knocked me to the ground and stole my truck, and then he said he'd come back later and hurt my family. Arrest him now!" The 2 police officers who had showed up were an older man with a mustache and a younger one that Caleb said he guessed was a rookie because the younger cop was immediately getting ready to aim his taser when the older one stopped him so they could assess the situation first. Caleb raised both his hands and calmly stated nothing that Teapot said was true, and that she had been harassing him since he caught her trying to break into his truck. Teapot, while still having a tantrum on the ground, yelled, "He's lying! Arrest him!" The rookie officer spoke with Teapot, while the mustached one spoke with Caleb. Since he was so close to the store, Caleb stated that he bet the security cameras picked up the whole thing. It was at that point Teapot gave up her act and started screaming like a banshee while running at Caleb with a small pocket knife she had pulled from her purse. Caleb tried to back away. He held his hands up and the knife went through his palm, which he described to me as one of the most painful things he ever felt. She pulled the knife out and tried to stab him again when the rookie tackled her to the ground and tased her. Teapot flailed around and started screaming and sobbing like a baby. When she finally stopped moving, the mustached officer cuffed her while the rookie called for an ambulance. Teapot was loaded into the police cruiser, kicking and screaming, "Help! Police brutality! Someone help me!" Caleb was taken to the hospital to tend to the stab wound in his hand. Turns out he was incredibly lucky as the knife had gone right between the bone and didn't damage any tendons. Later in court, Teapot actually tried to plead not guilty, but the evidence against her was overwhelming, and she was charged with attempted murder, attempted grand theft auto, and a few other things. The judge sentenced her to be put in a mental facility because clearly she was not well. As soon as that happened, Teapot flipped out and began trying to charge at the judge, but she was quickly grabbed by the guards and hauled out of the courtroom. Also during the trial, Caleb met Teapot's son. Turns out he had gone no contact with her as soon as he was old enough to move out because she was the most controlling and overbearing mother you could imagine. And ever since then, she had been trying to show up at his apartment and bring him nice things he suspected were stolen just to try and get him to talk to her. I guess she figured that Caleb's truck would have gotten her back into her son's good graces or something. The story is getting written now because Caleb decided to check up on Teapot by searching her name online. She's still in a mental facility. He found out from her son through social media that it looks like she'll be staying there for quite some time to come. Edit. Thank you everyone for all the awards, and Caleb says thank you too. Our next story is by The Stash Attacked. Em wants her kid to drink underage and loses it when I say no. Boy, I have some entitled parent stories from when I worked in upscale restaurants. Diners, parents behave, kids behave, or at least try to behave with their parents encouraging good behavior. Kids get a pass for the odd poor manner here and there, but the bougier the restaurant, the more entitled the parents get. So here I am at a fancy Italian restaurant. I go up to the table and I introduce myself and ask if I can start them with some drinks. Em: "Oh, boy's name. Honey, show the lady your ID so we can get some cocktails." The young man, who I would guess was no older than 16, hands me the most blatantly fake ID I've ever seen. Like, I don't know who this thing was supposed to fool. The photo was crooked and clearly pasted on and peeled off when I ran my thumb over it, revealing a totally different person whose name on the ID was Amanda. So it's a very, very bad fake. Me: "I'm sorry, but do you have another form of ID? This isn't yours." Em: "What do you mean it isn't his? That's his ID." Me: "Well, I don't think he's a black female named Amanda. So no, this is not his ID, and I can't serve anyone at this table alcohol now. It's the law." My manager overheard some of this and came over. Manager: "Is there a problem?" Em: "She won't serve my son alcohol even though he showed her his ID." At this, I hand my manager the fake ID. Manager: "Ma'am, this is clearly a fake ID. By law, we can't serve anyone at this table alcohol." She lost her mind, jumped up and held her fork like she was going to stab someone with it, and demanded to speak to the owner. The owner has heard the whole thing and comes over to inform the woman that no, we will not be serving them alcohol, and that she can now leave either via her own legs or the cops, because we weren't serving them food either. Em and company do decide that we're serious and storm out, making a scene, ranting the whole way out the door. Other guests are staring and then go back to their food with bouts of uncomfortable giggles. I have so many other stories from this restaurant. This isn't even the worst one. Edit. Because I'm getting tired of the same 5 comments over and over, this happened in a US state with really strict alcohol laws. If one person in a group attempts to obtain alcohol through deceptive means, such as with a fake ID, I couldn't serve anyone at that table alcohol. If you're enjoying the content so far, please put a heart emoji in the comment section down below. Our next story is by Mindful Therapist 186, entitled Dad Leaves Me with His Children on a Plane. So this happened last weekend. I was flying out of JFK Airport in New York, aka one of the worst airports in the US, trying not to catch the plague, double mask. When I was in the TSA line, I was surrounded by two families, a mom with her son behind me, and two parents with their two boys in front of me. The mom in front of me was tired, like she was sitting on a big carry-on bag while her husband wheeled her about tired. The dad was so focused on the mom not falling off the suitcase that the boys were just darting around trying to play with the boy behind me as well. It was 6:30 in the morning. I'm on 2 hours of sleep, so the world is just too much for me. But I also worked with special needs preschoolers for 2 years prior to becoming a therapist, so I know how to wrangle kids on minimal sleep. I go into crowd control mode, asking the boys about their interests, but reminding them that we have to be quiet to talk about them. I find out the brothers are Eric, 9, and Daniel, 6. They're really excited about going on a plane. The boys start having a quiet conversation about Minecraft. The mom behind me thanks me, and we actually have a nice chat about my previous workings in the special needs school and how fun it was. An hour and a half later, I'm boarding the plane and I see the tired mom like 5 rows back from where I'm seated. She's at a window seat and she's already passed out. I sit, and about 5 minutes later, I see the dad and the two boys coming onto the plane. The first kid, Daniel, sits down next to me, and the dad pauses for a moment just staring at me. After a minute, I was like, is there something wrong? I kid you not, the man proceeds to take the boarding pass out of his second son's hand and swap it with his. He tells his sons to sit in the aisle seat. He then bolts to the row that his wife is in. Once the disbelief wore off, the boys start asking me questions about the plane, snacks, and the TV mounted in front of them. I'm so exhausted, I don't even fight it. I show the older one how to turn the TV screen on the seat in front of him. Miss Mindful is really sleepy like your mom, so I'm going to take a nap. Both of them tell me to have a nice nap and I pass out. I wake up 2 hours later with my tray table down, a mini water, and a bag of cookies on it. Apparently my new friends thought I would want a snack when I woke up. Great kids. 30 minutes before we land, there's commotion behind us, and what sounds like running. All of a sudden, the formerly asleep mom, very much awake, looking over both boys to make sure they're all right. Both of them mention how they have been watching Moana, so they are perfectly fine. The mom then shoots her husband the neutral face of displeasure. If you don't know what that is, Google fresh off the boat clip of it. When we get off the plane, the mom follows me into the bathroom and apologizes. Apparently, she took some medication to help her ease anxiety with flying, but it knocked her out. I guess you can't be anxious if you're unconscious, I suppose. Her husband was supposed to sit with her younger boy, while the older one was supposed to sit with her. She freaked out when she woke up and saw her husband, and in her drowsy state, she thought her husband forgot the children back at JFK, hence the panic. Apparently, her husband thought it was a good idea to leave them with me because he heard me talking about working at a school and figured they would be fine with me. She apologized when we got out of the bathroom, and she made her husband apologize for abandoning our children with a stranger. The whole walk out to the pickup area, she was reminding her children about stranger danger and how they need to be careful in big places like this. Daniel gave me a paper heart he folded out of a New York City brochure, so I have a new best friend now. Our final story today is posted by MyGloby1. Wait until my child is done. I was picking up my stepchild today for a couple of weeks. I stopped by a very busy convenience store to grab a few snacks and use the restroom. You know, the usual stuff. I'm trying to pull into the only non-handicap parking place available, and a woman with both passenger doors open is just standing there blocking me from entering the parking place. I roll down my window and ask, "Excuse me, could you please close your doors so that I may park?" She gives me the dirtiest look and responds, "You'll have to wait until my child is done with her drink and is ready to go inside and use the bathroom." I said, "Seriously? There's like 20 other cars in this lot trying to get parked, and you can't close your doors for 30 seconds to allow one of them to park?" She proceeds to tell me it will only be a few more minutes and to just wait. Well, guess what, lady? My horn is only going to blast for a few minutes until you close the doors and let me park. She rather quickly shut the doors and allowed me to park. As I was getting out, her husband came out of the store and said, "I told you to shut those dang doors. Someone was going to need to park." She looked very defeated as I went into the store. That's all the stories I have for today. Links to the original Reddit posts will be in the description box below. Please stop on by Reddit to show the OP some love and an upvote. If you enjoy my videos, please comment, like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell notification to let you know when I upload new videos. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.